But love's a fantasy. Love's not a fantasy. But to you right now, love is a fantasy. So you're bringing that in, and then you start to realize the love that you thought is your fantasy now becomes the source of your entanglements. And so now you're growing entanglements. And your fantasy is on the opposite side of the pole of truth. Truth brings about disentanglement. But because you're more aligned in allegiance of your fantasy, you are going to continue to try to work that fantasy to your own social, emotional, and spiritual death. And men, we're not exempt from the fantasy either. We can get real shallow with our fantasy, right? So she's got that look, you know what I'm saying? Or she demonstrates the basic things that we want to stroke our ego. We'll align with her. And then when she does it, when she steps outside that fantasy for us, we try to exercise a level of control. When she no longer is falling inside that sense of control, then we begin to lose ourselves. And then we become very, very jaded and very, very hardened. And we begin to take this out on other women. And we begin to try to penalize all other women, all because our fantasy was never fulfilled by the woman that we thought should meet what we need. And this is why, ladies, most of us men are tyrants in relationships. We don't open and welcome your freedom in relationships because it doesn't meet our fantasy. And so in order for me to have my fantasy as a man, I have to control you. So on both sides, we just really want our illusions. The question is, are you willing to break the image of that fantasy? Because love is not a possession. Love is not a fantasy. Love is not a possession. Love is not a fantasy.